So, welcome, of course, to the third webinar in the series where I'm going to be covering how to start your business for free. And my next line that I have here in my notes is I've done everything in my power not to have technical difficulties, but Facebook seems to like to trip me up. I swear I know what I'm doing. Anyways, onward and upward. So I'm stoked to be here as usual to talk to you guys. I'm also more stoked to see that all you guys have hopped on, have been here before. That makes it super exciting for me. I think this topic honestly is important because I don't think enough people talk about it when they're coaching people to start their business. So a little bit of housekeeping as usual. So welcome. And the question tonight is, can you really start a business for free? I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I started and a few of my secrets, and then some of the software that you should have, but also when you should start looking at this software and how far along in your business you might want to be. Now, we're going to start tonight off with a bit of an icebreaker question, and that way I can get to know you guys a little bit better, especially because you guys have been here all the way from the beginning. And yeah, there's usually some of the same stories and scenarios in regards to business that we see when we work with holistic nutrition practitioners. So have a think while I'm telling you what I normally see, and get ready to tell me where you guys are at with your business business in just a minute. Oh my goodness, you guys. Whew. It's gonna be a long presentation. Anyways, so there are generally three scenarios, and in all three of them, the practitioners have just paid thousands of dollars, roughly give or take, on their nutrition training, depending on what school they've gone to. And included in that somewhere was a practical portion or a co-op or some kind of placement and a business course. And now after this is kind of where the story varies a bit for nutritionists. So you might see one of these examples in your story. So scenario number one. You thought you were taught everything that you should need to know to start your consulting business or a different nutrition business, and you got out of school and you realized you were so ill prepared for what starting a business actually meant, and now you're stuck. You're stuck, and thus you have not started your business at all yet. Then there's scenario number two. You were in the same position as scenario number one, but you had no clue what to do. You paid loads of money for a website, your business coach. You're doing all right, but you're at the mercy of other people when you need help with technical things, and you continue to pay out instead of making any money. Or there's scenario number three, and maybe you were feeling ill-prepared in scenario number three, but you're lucky to be pretty savvy or have a savvy kid who you can squeeze some tech info out of. And of course, there's always Google for information. So maybe in this scenario, the practitioners figured out how to piece together the basics and are making it work using what works for them until they can afford to level up and hire help. So I want you guys to tell me where you are at right now. I'm going to take a sip of water and then bounce over to the chat and just get a gauge of where you guys are all at right now. All right, coming over. I hope that the screen is clear now for you guys. So I want you guys to be telling me where you guys are at with your businesses and how you see yourself, in those scenarios. One, still in school. Yeah, awesome. So you guys are still in school, but you know what? I love that because this is really when you need to be starting to think about your businesses. So this webinar honestly is perfect for you because it is really about starting your business at the base. So I'm going to continue on. I think you guys are awesome for looking into this now. I think that's another one of the biggest mistakes that I see is people waiting to get started. Okay, I hope that, voila. So then the next question you guys need to start thinking about is where you would like to be at. Of course, if you guys have been doing the homework from the business identity webinar, you should be able to answer this question. This is really, especially because you guys are still in school, or most of you are, um, you really need to start thinking about where you would like your business to be when you get out of school or afterwards, when you really start working on it. So, to be honest, I want to make sure that all of you are in the position to earn a living and feel like you're not continuously paying out of pocket for expenses that are unnecessary when you are first starting out. And there's many things that we see other people doing, or perhaps, someone's referred someone else to us because they've used them. And to be fair, I want you to feel like example 3. I want you to feel a little bit more tech savvy and that you can piece together what you need to without breaking the bank or feeling like you're completely lost in the tech world. So this is what I did when I was first consulting. I pieced things together, and obviously I was lucky. I worked in advertising and was an administrative executive. I managed companies. I worked in car sales, like I've mentioned, and that was with a mainly selling online, of course. And, to add in a little bit of personal experience, I grew up in a very techie family, but, being a single mom for 5 years, I learned to be pretty resourceful and I learned to think outside the box when I was starting my business. And that was especially helpful when, money's tight. You're not making any money when you first start a business. So literally, this is my jam. And most holistic nutritionists who do well in the business have come from some kind of corporate background, which means that it's completely their jam too. So I don't want you guys to feel hard on yourselves for whatever point you're at with your business. This is the natural progression to starting your business. So if you guys are still in school, I don't know how relevant this question is going to be, but for other people who are not still in school, if there are people on here, I want to hear if anybody on here has felt like they've pieced together their business like I kind of describe it. I'm going to hop over and see, not ready. Finished a year ago and I thought I would try knocking doors. Oh, that's a good idea. Nobody does door-to-door sales anymore. And all I hear is online programs and signature group training. And that is exactly why I am putting out this webinar, because signature group training or expensive coaching programs is not realistic for the majority of people in a time like this. Yeah, you guys can start your business online. It would work. I'm going to continue talking because I'm going to cover a little bit about this, but I'm really enjoying. Oh, Crystal, I did not know you graduated 12 years ago. Amazing. I'm so stoked. That's really exciting. So I have a corporate job and studying nutrition. This is literally how it works for the majority of people. It's like they're in the corporate world, they have a health issue, they switch over. And the people who have had kind of business backgrounds and that kind of thing tend to do better, I find, in starting up their business, and they know to expect some of the challenges that kind of come along with it. And so that's what's kind of interesting here. Anyways, I'm going to continue on. Ladies, thank you. That was awesome. I love that the comments are on time tonight and not delayed. It's much nicer to have conversation with you guys tonight. Anyways, onward and upward. So let's be realistic here. Most of you are probably thinking it's impossible to start a business for free or at least close to free. And one of the biggest mistakes I think people make is thinking that they need to hire that expensive web developer or the designer or the business coach that you guys mentioned just a second ago. To get started in your business, when in reality it's completely not like that at all. And I really think that it's one of the main reasons why people don't think they can start a business at all. But I do want to say, don't be a copycat. You guys, this picture is ridiculous. I cannot handle it. Anyways, I put it in here simply because I couldn't stop laughing myself. So I hope that you guys find this as funny as I do. Anyways, so don't be a copycat, please, you guys. Because we see other practitioners online in various stages of their business doing one thing or another with the fancy websites, it does not mean you have to do the same thing right away. And in fact, that fancy website and the business coach is not what has made those practitioners more likable or more successful. The reality is, and this is what I'm trying to get across to people who are in our group and following the hub, is that practitioners really need to stop spending all of their money on expensive startup systems. Because the only thing that you guys need to start a profitable consulting business are a computer, an email address, and liability insurance. You may need to get a business license as well on top of that, but that really depends on where you live, where your business is located, and what kind of business you're running. There's also ways that you don't have to register your business name. So if you're just using your full name, say I used Lynne Fairs, I wouldn't have to register my business name. However, if I want to do Lynne Fairs Holistic Nutritionist as my business name, it needs to be registered. But there are ways around not having to pay that fee. So I'm going to be honest with you, and I think that we as holistic nutritionists see other holistic nutritionists who have gone for it big and they got lucky. And I would honestly love for you all to get to that place one day. But I bet these holistic nutritionists started out right where you are right now in this exact spot in their business journey. So you guys, what do you think the number one foundational step is that they took to become super successful in their business? I'm going to wait for you guys to respond to this and take a drink of water. This is how we're going to roll from here on out. Turning your basement into a clinic. That's a great idea. I wanted to do something similar, in my apartment now. I think I would feel better, honestly, if we had a house, but I think that's a great way of, Crystal's in with marketing, you guys, on the first foundational step that they took. Word of mouth. It's another good one. Advertising. I like this. I mean, you guys definitely should be marketing and advertising, but I'm going to go back to my slides and continue on. The first foundational step that they took was they took a huge leap of faith in themselves and they just started their business. And they started however they knew how, and they just got it done. And for sure, you guys, the reality is that it probably took them 5 to 10 years to build that crazy popular business up. So we have to take a page out of their books and actually just start before we can actually hope to be in their shoes in less than 6 months. So one of the ways that we can do this is by keeping it real. And when I say this, it's because the internet honestly doesn't replace in-person interactions. And this sounds a little harsh considering that we're sitting on a Facebook Live right now, but given the situation, this is how we roll right now. But the reality is that when we pay for expensive business coaches or technology, we actually remove ourselves from personal interaction, which is 100% free. And I know that this makes it hard in today's world with COVID and everything and in the current situation. But in an ideal world, I would always suggest that you do the following before anything else. And that's, first of all, I would suggest that you meet your clients in person when you can. So there's no harm in hopping into a coffee shop to have a consult with somebody. That's where I first started out. I would say, meet me at the Starbucks or wherever and have a coffee with them. I also started going to networking events to meet potential clients, but also other referral partners. Often, the way that these networking events work is that you have to refer to people, and there's usually only one of a kind in the group. So there's one lawyer, there's one finance person, there's one nutritionist, one fitness professional, that sort of thing. And the third thing that you guys can do is put you and your business out there in front of others so that they get to know you. So this means that you could do workshops or, go in and speak to corporate people at lunch or something along those lines. The more people get to know who you are, the better. So this does kind of fall into the marketing and advertising, but definitely gives you a free way of doing it. So the idea is that if you can make a positive impact on somebody while standing in front of them, they're not going to forget you. It's going to be easier to be out of sight, excuse me, out of sight, out of mind when you're only interacting online with them. So the internet can honestly facilitate first contact with somebody and facilitate the follow-up process, but as long as we're human, we are always going to prefer personal interactions to the digital ones. And this is just our human nature. It's always going to be like that. Sorry, you guys, I have a frog in my throat, apparently. So while you guys have the time when starting your business, do the dirty work yourself. And I say dirty work, but I mean put in the work to get new clients and focus on providing seriously top-notch service and always under promise and over deliver. Always. That would be probably what my number one focus was when I first started, was make everybody know who you are. Tell them that you're going to deliver something and just wow them. And this is how we're going to start getting referrals and mentions from other people. So then as you get busier, because you've gone through this process and you scale your business using technology and other tools, this is where the products that I'm going to recommend tonight come in. So once you're busy, you scale up, you leverage technology and other tools to free up time, and then you get into the products and everything else. So I'm going to talk about those in just a minute. But I wanted to come over here and just take a look. Yeah, social media connection, like I said, I say that all the time to you guys. Social media connection is great. It's a great way for you to start getting online. Make sure they're still doing those in-person interactions, and you're really solidifying that contact. And make sure those people who know, and trust you in person follow you on social media, because it can be quite amazing how supportive they are in your online presence as well. So now, if you really want to be organized like I was when I first started, I made sure that I understood how I wanted my business to flow. Now, you may not have thought about this as much, but you need to start thinking about places where you can find your clients. So who wants to be brave enough tonight and share with all of us the work that you guys have been putting in to figuring out where you might find your clients? This was, I think, homework kind of from webinar 1, webinar 2 a little bit. So whoever wants to be brave enough, or all of you guys, to share that, I'll pop over once I'm done going through this slide.
And then the second thing that you guys want to be looking at and thinking about is, how are you staying connected with them? Are you connecting with them through email only? Are you going to have a Facebook group that you can put your clients into for support? Those kinds of things. You want to be thinking about where you're making that connection. Are you only going to be seeing them in person, for that matter? And then thirdly, what's your process? How are you going to track your clients, the documents that you have sent to them, the flow of what your process is, the whole process from start to finish? You know, when do you send what email? You know, what's your first email? What's your last email? What's your sales email? Those seem kind of complicated, but you do need to be thinking about what's this process that you're going to have instead of just winging it every time. It's always better to have a process so that each client will know exactly what they're getting from you. And then lastly, you want to think about how you're presenting your pricing and packages. So are you going to use a Facebook page? Are you going to build yourself a website? Are you just going to have them listed out in an email and send it in a proposal? Those are a couple more things that you want to be looking at. So these are, oh my goodness, I hope you guys are still there. My computer just like closed on me. It looks like we're good. Okay, so these were the first questions that I started asking myself when I finished school. And so then I knew where I needed to put my focus when it came to technology. But I'm going to hop in here. So starting by talking to neighbors, yeah, that's a great idea. Neighbors, right, waiting for you to graduate. I totally get that. It's a great way. So one of my top tips that I'll probably share in a later webinar, but I'll fire it in here too, is using your neighbors, your friends, your family. And the trick that I used when I first started was telling them that I was just starting out and that I would help them for a review. That way there's no money exchange. Technically, you don't need to have insurance because you're just putting recommendations out there. Now, if somebody if somebody wanted to work with you, it would be best for them to just grab the recommendations from you. You receive a testimonial. That way there's no money exchange, and you guys can get a little bit of practice in as well. So for sure, start with neighbors, friends, family. That's awesome. Yeah, there's such a need for holistic nutritionists right now. Lots of parents. Kyla, do you know what your niche is going to be? Are you working with families or parents, or what's your niche going to be? Crystal, I'm just reading you guys. I'm sorry. Yeah, awesome. These are great responses. You guys have been clearly doing your homework. All right. So, as I mentioned before, all you need to get started is a computer, email address, insurance, and a business license. And this is honestly true. However, you're going to get to a point where you might want to look into a few things and start growing your following online, or keep in contact with those you've built relationships with in person. And so when considering this, you need to figure out what you really need to get started. So I'm putting these recommendations in order of relevance and what is needed first. And as you guys have been following along with these webinars, everything's clearly in order of where to start and what to think about. It's part of my organizational skills, guys. Anyways, first comes business identity, then comes your niche, and then comes design software. So the first thing you're going to want to start looking at, and I've talked about this before, is design software. And it's going to help in deciding on your colors, fonts, image creation for social media, and especially help you with your logos, banners, and a lot more. I've recommended this before. Like I said, Canva is a super powerful tool for those who are even not tech savvy, so to speak. And they have loads of templates for videos, menus, presentations. And the coolest part, I think, is that they've just released a social media scheduling feature. So you can connect your social media directly from Canva to share on your social media accounts without needing to get something like Hootsuite or Buffer, which can be quite costly. So design software, I definitely recommend Canva. They have a free account, but even their pro account, which has way more images available and that sort of thing, is only $12 per month. So it's free, I think, forever, as long as you don't want extra images and that sort of thing. And they also have lots of cool videos on helping you design stuff and figuring that part out too. So number two, you guys were all over this, social media and online advertising and making sure you're connected that way. So nowadays, you can kind of have your social media platforms be your online calling card without really needing a website. And that can kind of come further down the road once you've gained a client or two to actually pay for it. Now, again, knowing where you should set up your social media accounts really comes from knowing who your clients are and what your specific niche is. We know that the majority of holistic nutritionists hang out on Instagram and Facebook for their businesses. So we connect with you guys mostly through there. However, depending on what your niche is, you're going to want to look at Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and other areas depending on what your focus is. So for example, Twitter and LinkedIn are great places to find business executives or people working in corporate areas. So if you're going to work in corporate wellness, this might be where you want to spend more of your time with your social media efforts. And then with Facebook, this is obviously where you're going to be you should have, I should say, a business page which can hold all of your business information. And this is almost your calling card, such as a website would be. So if you're running group programs or you want to offer a free class to snag people into as well and stay connected that way, the Facebook groups is an alternative way to, quote unquote, sell a course. Because they have a cool unit section in there, much like we have the Holistic Nutrition Hub set up. And you can stay connected that way so that people who have already gone through a program, you can upsell later. Maybe you put out a meal plan or something and you want to share it with them. It's a great way to keep in contact. So the next thing that you want to be thinking about is liability insurance. So this is not something that you ever want to skimp out on. It's normally the one thing that we say you actually need to have before you start taking payments for your services. So as I mentioned before, if you want to work with your neighbors just based on the fact that you're giving them recommendations in return for a testimonial, that's very different than having money exchange hands. So having insurance is honestly just smart business. It's a small fee. I think and depending on who you've gone through for your schooling, for example, CSNN alumni has a discounted price, and I think it comes out to be $299 a year, and even the full price, I think, is something like $400. So in terms of this small fee to ensure that you don't lose your business, in the worst case scenario that somebody sues you, you're protected. And we at the Hub and most practitioners actually recommend Lackner McLennan Insurance, as they work with many other modalities as well, yoga, fitness, Reiki, that sort of thing. And so I always recommend going with them so that if you have one of these other modalities, you can kind of add that in with your nutrition consulting insurance. Now, 4, you need to make sure that you have a way of taking payments. I put a way to make payments. That doesn't make any sense. You guys, a way to take payments is what that's supposed to say. Anyway, so if you have a handful of clients per month, you should be able to take and track payments pretty easily with just a spreadsheet. an Excel spreadsheet showing which money came in from who, etc. And to make it somewhat free in terms of collecting payment, obviously e-transfers are free on your end to accept. Cash is absolutely free. Not that very many people use cash ever anymore, but it happens. And PayPal, you only pay the transaction fee to process the payment. So this is the same for most payment softwares. So PayPal, Stripe, Square, those all have roughly the same transaction fees and are slightly different, but PayPal, most people know how to use PayPal and are accepted as a safe and valid way of making online payments. Now, number 5, you need a way to track your clients. And I'm a firm believer that you need to stay on top of your workflow and you need a place to stay organized. So I said organized probably like 100 times in this webinar already. So literally organization is one of the top needs when you're running a successful business. So there has to be a flow and you need to be able to see how it all works. I really love Trello for staying on top of my work and ensuring that I actually don't forget anything. So this is my holistic nutrition hub. I have my to-dos, my podcasts, my course launch info. So everything that I need to stay on track with that. You guys, there's a lot. Social marketing ideas, my blog post ideas, just making sure that I'm really staying on top of everything that pops into my head. And maybe it doesn't get done right away, but at least I have a way of coming back and looking at it later and maybe grabbing an idea when I have some downtime to work on that next. So Trello, you guys, I definitely think it's worth it. I think it's free as far as I remember, and you can pay, but a basic business wouldn't need to pay for the pro, in my opinion. So number 7, build your own website, guys. So this can really come long after. There's no reason you need a website to have a business. I think that's kind of a false advertising when we think about starting our business. So the website is really a place where people can go and find out more about who you are and really get to know your personality, what your company and business is all about. However, like I said, this shouldn't be necessarily the first thing that you do. Your money really should be going to have insurance and a business license, and making sure that you're covering your costs, and maybe making a little bit of money, to go into your pocket before you go and build a website. Now, Sean and I didn't have a clue how to build websites when we first started. But there's lots of easy platforms online now so that you can do it for relatively cheap, usually just with the cost of a domain name and maybe a free version of a website or a small fee. But definitely use something easy to handle that's going to allow for some growth as you get bigger as well. So we recommend WordPress or Squarespace. If you're super tech savvy or you feel comfortable on the computer or online, I would say WordPress would be a good match. If you're a little bit less sure of, the technical side of things, Squarespace might be your other option. And the reason that I recommend building your own website is that it is expensive, and you're cutting out the middleman. So you're going to save so much money from having to pay the crazy amounts of money to get your site going. And it can be honestly really outside of somebody's wheelhouse, and I completely appreciate that. But just make sure that you find somebody, if you're going to go that route to build your website and design it, make sure you find somebody who you trust and has amazing reviews. Like, I cannot stress this enough. I've seen too many people get screwed over with website design and the amount that they've paid for their site, when honestly to do it with a little bit of guidance is pretty simple. Now, this wouldn't be a very good presentation if I didn't tell you guys what the Holistic Nutrition Hub actually provides on the platform side. So on the handout for tonight's webinar, in the link I've provided the entire walkthrough of the platform so that you guys can check that out as well. But I'm just going to cover the basics so you guys can see what I started and why I started it when I first started consulting. Oh, there we go. So the Holistic Nutrition Hub provides holistic nutrition professionals and other nutrition business owners with a comprehensive online consulting platform, as you can see, and it has countless features, including a client intake form, a body systems and nutrient deficiency assessment, client consulting tools such as recipe builders, and a meal planner inside of it. And these are easily sent to the client via the practitioner account. So with the free subscription that we actually offer, you get the client intake form, a medical history form, informed consent agreement, and the food and symptom journal. And that's all under the free subscription. And this is so that you guys can actually get started and grow your holistic nutrition practice without having to incur any kind of fees. And we also want to make sure that the entire platform is going to work with you and your business before you actually commit to a more like a premium subscription. And so that's why we also offer a 15-day free trial where you have complete access to all the features and can really get to know how to streamline your practice. So you can cancel at any time, of course, as well. Now, lastly, we have loads of resources that we make available to you within the membership as well, so that you're always going to have that point of contact for business questions and that sort of thing. So that's a bit about the Holistic Nutrition Hub. You know, we offer online courses for you guys. Obviously, you guys probably know this now that you're here and have been watching. Now, lastly, email software. This is, you know, once you've started, where was I going with this? Once you have that all sorted, you can start thinking about your sales funnel. And I'm not going to go into details on what that is or how to do it, obviously. This is for another time, but this is going to be your next step. And what I've given you tonight is already going to be a lot to take in. And so it's best that you focus on those steps before you really start thinking about this. But just so that you guys have this available to you. And when you get there, I suggest using MailChimp or ConvertKit as the email marketing platforms. They're easy to use, allow you to kind of grow with your email list, and I believe they're both free up to 1,000 subscribers. They also integrate really well into other platforms seamlessly, and you can send emails, you know, newsletters, promotions, and other offers to your subscribers very easily. There's a way to track your clients in there, you know, where they came from, that sort of thing. But like I said, that's kind of the next level up. Once you guys are started, you have all these steps finished, then you start thinking about these next steps. And that's where a lot of these really expensive business coaches kind of come in and sell you guys on a quote unquote signature program or build your email list or that sort of thing. And you definitely can start building your email list now while you're in school. That's not something that I'm going to say don't do. But you want to make sure that, you know, you have your social media accounts set up, you have a website, you have your Facebook page, all of those things. And when you get to that point, I'd be happy to share what you should do further from that. So get ready. The Q&A is coming up. I would love to hear your questions tonight. I feel like you guys are super engaged. I hope anyways that this was informative. Talking about software can be pretty dry. I totally get it. Don't forget to hop over and grab your free business software checklist so that if you aren't in that stage of your business yet, you can have this on your files to know where to continue onwards with. And then next week, you guys, I am sharing how to share on social. So giving you a few of my tips on what you need to be focused on when you're getting started and making sure that you're doing the right things to get traffic to what you are posting. You guys, this starts in 5 days, and I'm pretty sure most of you guys are already in my mentorship program. So I'm excited. If you guys are excited, in 5 days, yeah, I am still getting stuff pieced together, and I'm getting really stoked on what we're going to share. So thank you guys again for sitting in on my webinar. I really am so thankful that you guys keep showing up. It makes me super proud to be here. And I would love to hear what questions you guys have. So I'm hopping over. Where do you get a business license? Okay, business licenses are pretty tricky because it really depends on where you live. So when I was living in Vancouver, we had to go into the city of Vancouver and register our business, well, show them that we had a business and register for a license through there. I think it was about $180. And it all depends too. Like if you're consulting in a business with somebody and you're renting a room, they may already have the permit that you need and the license. So I worked in a gym, for example, and they had the permit and the license for the gym, and I was just contracted out by the gym. So I didn't technically need to have a business license. And Kyla, I'm just reading here, have 3 kids of your own, so kid athletes. I like kid nutrition as a whole, and there are lots of people who are doing athletic nutrition for children, you know, in hockey and sports. So I think that's a great area. It always kills me when I go to like my kids' events and they're like handing out, you know, granola bars and juice boxes and that kind of thing. It drives me nuts. I'm always the mom with the orange slices and apples and other healthy things. Yes. I love Canva, very user friendly. Yeah, I'm enjoying it so much. The more I use it, the more I love it. It is definitely okay to post something from Instagram to go automatically to Facebook. You don't want to overshare. I get that. Now, what makes people see your stuff on social media is actually how often people interact with it, especially in a Facebook group or on a Facebook page. The more active you are and the more engaged your audience is, the more likely somebody searching Facebook or Instagram is actually going to find you based on their algorithm. So don't worry about oversharing. However, make sure that your posts are quality, you know, like quality over quantity, as I would say. You know, unless you're in the depths of selling a product or something, you want your posts to be informative. So I'll touch on this next week, guys, but 80% of your posts should be informational or educational, and 20% should be, what was I going? Salesy. That's the word I'll use. Salesy. Okay, Laura, I just saw screen is out of focus. Yeah, I know. I did a bad picture of that, you guys. It was Trello. So that's what I use to organize my thoughts, business, life, everything. Trello, Trello. What is the software name for tracking? So if you're talking about tracking clients, the hub does this on the back end. There is a client kind of manager in there, a calendar, that sort of thing as well. Can you get liability insurance while still being a student? No, I don't believe you can. You usually have to have your designation, your certification as proof that you are certified. Sorry, I'm just reading. So not starting with online signature programs. You could start with an online signature program, but if you don't have a following and you don't have anybody watching the fact that you have a signature program, you're going to end up getting crickets the first time. So it is definitely better to start building a connection, gaining a few clients, and then working on that signature program. One of the most discouraging things is to start with an online signature program, have 50 followers on your Instagram, and email your closest friends and family, and literally nobody signs up. It's really disheartening when that happens. So that's why I always recommend kind of starting before you are done school. I'm just reading, still reading. Other than clients, how can you get other ways of revenue like affiliates and promoting products that you believe in maybe? So absolutely, find a supplement company. That's what I always recommend in terms of like finding a product. So whether, okay, and people usually kind of poo-poo MLMs and that sort of thing. And I'm not saying that you have to do it like this. However, there's other supplement companies who are genuinely like clinical based supplement companies that are not MLMs, but have a practitioner account where you make a profit. So I always recommend finding a product that resonates with you and your business and what you're doing. So say you're a holistic nutritionist who's also a yoga instructor and you use aromatherapy, you might want to, you know, have essential oils on hand so that when somebody comes up to you and says, you know, this is what my issue is, you can tie in an essential oil, or say, this is what we used in class today, whatever it is. The other option would be to have a supplement brand that resonates with you that has a practitioner account attached to it. Because often Thorne is one that I really like because they offer, I think it's a 35% margin to the practitioner. And that means if you're selling, you know, a $100 product or $100 worth of product, you're making $35 off of it. Now, if you send your client, for instance, to a supplement store or a health food store to buy their supplements, you're literally giving that 35 to 40% margin over to the health food store when you could be ordering, or your client could be ordering through you the products that are just delivered directly through them. So you have a customer link or an affiliate link. Thorne, like I said, has this available in Canada, and they're absolutely amazing products, probably one of the best ones out there. So I definitely recommend having a product to sell or something along those lines, but make sure it resonates with you and matches your product, like your service that you're offering. So for instance, I'm going to use Crystal as an example because I know her niche is for autism. You know, she could sign up for a practitioner account with Thorne, and her go-to recommendations in her packages could be omegas, B vitamins, and let's say, oh my gosh, I can't even think of the word, probiotics. That's it. It's getting late here, you guys. Anyways, so that's kind of what I mean. So your packages would kind of encompass those supplements in them. And so you could make, you know, a handful of extra dollars that way. So is it worth, this is the last question I'm going to answer, you guys. But is it worth paying for Facebook ads later? Absolutely. Later for sure, but you need to know what you're doing. I'm still completely lost in the Facebook ad world. I refer out to somebody and use them. I've never paid for a Facebook ad, believe it or not. I've built the hub and my Instagram following all from organic traffic. And yes, that took a long time. However, I'm not at the point where I feel comfortable paying yet. I feel like sometimes it can be a little bit corporate, but you also want to know where your clients are, and that's what I was kind of talking about before, is knowing who your audience is. So I know you guys really well because I can kind of track you on my pages, and that means that once I have a really good large audience, I'm able to see how to target those ads, especially when I'm working with somebody to do that for me. So making sure that you have the audience before you go out and launch a signature program and before you go out and pay for ads is super important. Anyways, you guys, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. I honestly have a blast doing these webinars with you guys. And I look forward to seeing you again next week when I chat to you guys about how to share on social media. That's something that I think is super relevant even now if you haven't started your business or are still in school. Anyways, you guys, have a great night. Oh, it's nighttime for me. Have a great afternoon, morning, depending on where you are, and we will see you all next week.